Okay, so welcome back. We're going to be discussing school registration today. At this time, I'm going to turn over to Julia and Sue, who are going to be walking us through a tutorial on the school registration process, at least within the Waterloo School District. I'm sure it's different at every district, but yeah. So I'll just turn over to you all and then just take it away.
Sure. My name is Julia Eckerman. I am actually the district registrar for the Waterloo schools. And I have with me Sue Little, who is our tech guru and helps with all things technology. And I have been in this position for 7 years now, I believe. And we went to online registration. This would be our 4th year. So we've been doing this for a while. And we have lots of communication that goes out to families. And I know that, we've got some other questions and concerns on that, so we can get to that as well. But we just wanted to kind of do just a little guide to show you how, what it looks like as an existing family. So that's called our annual update. So if you've been in our district, every year you have to do an annual update. That's just to keep us posted on any phone number changes, emergency contact changes, address changes, health issues. So there's a section to change and add any health issues that may have occurred. Let's say over the summer, your child is diagnosed with asthma, then we would want to know that when you do your annual update. This is something that is required every year. We also ask for proof of address every year. So that is where this information comes from. Used to all be done on paper. And now, as you know, everybody goes to technology, and other districts have been doing this for much longer than us, and we jumped on board 4 years ago. And when we share this, I wanted to share this just because it is fairly simple. Everything is pre-populated for families. If they've already been in our system, it pulls everything from our system to already show them. It's just if they need to make any changes. There's also forms that need approved every year, like, are you okay with your child going on field trips? So there's yearly things that have to be done. Our school district is also what we call a CEP district, which means that all of our families get free breakfast and lunch, no matter what their income is. There's no free and reduced lunch forms like there used to be back in the day. I tell families you can make $500,000 and you still get free breakfast and lunch in our district because of this CEP program. And the data that we have to collect for that is also in the annual update. We just ask for a range of income that a family makes. And then when we have to report the data, that's how we qualify and stay qualified for that every year. Information is also pulled that way when they do like the PEBT cards. So now with COVID, we've had, families getting food stamp cards that may have never gotten them before. So information is all pulled from that system for us to populate that.
Julia, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm Sue Little. I've been in the district for a little over 18 years and started with Infinite Campus probably 10 years ago, and with Julia doing OLR obviously 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm actually going to show you how to get to the online registration site from the district website. And then I'm probably just going to start clicking through the things while Julia talks. So at first, I think we'll just show you where to go and what will happen when we start. And then Julia will continue from there. And just want to note that right now, the information is kind of buried underneath families and under Infinite Campus. But when it comes time for registration, there will be something across the top of the screen right here that says registration or annual update. So just to mention that, but to start with, we would come here to families and then come to Infinite Campus.
Yeah, we have a timeline of when we can open this due to different federal forms and things that are on this. So we can't open this for existing families until July every year. And when that comes up, we start sending notifications. So we'll send phone calls that say, hey, this is about to open. You can go to our website. We also send the connected calls, any text or emails. That's one thing I really want to point out is I know some of our families that don't speak English don't have email addresses. That is a huge communication tool. even like when the Connect Ed calls go out, let's say a call goes out in Spanish, sometimes the information is too long to put in a text. So it will say, please check your email for new COVID guidelines, as an example. It is all still on our website, but it would be a way to just click to it from their email. So that's one thing I really wanted to point out. It's much easier if families do have emails. It asks for an email address. We know that not all families do, but our interpreters have sat with families and helped set them up an email so that they can then utilize some of the resources coming out to them. But as Sue said, this is just a way to get into the system without us sending out a notification or having that link up at the top of the screen once it opens. All parents have the parent portal, which they can check grades. They used to be able to check lunch accounts, but now that everybody's free lunch, we don't do that anymore. I have a child in middle school, so I can explain every time a grade is put in by a teacher, I get a notification. It'll tell me what the grade is, how many they scored, and what they received then as an overall grade. So he got 10 out of 10 on a quiz. Now his grade has gone from a C+ to a B-. Every time a teacher enters that, and that's available for all middle and high school. There's
all parents, sorry, I'm gonna just speak to this really specifically. All parents are given a username and password. We set that up automatically, and it is emailed to the parents. So again, like Julia was saying, if they do not have an email, then they would have to call us to get that information. The help desk is staffed, as you can see here, from 7:15 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. Parents who have usernames and passwords already set up and they've just forgotten, hopefully they have gone through the steps to set up that the email and all of that so that they could do the forget password, just to help us out down here. So no, we're not resetting 10,000 people's passwords every single year, but it does happen. We reset a lot of passwords. Julia, do you want to speak a little bit to how that works if they do have a different language besides English when they have issues?
Yes, so I know that there may be some concerns. We do have lots of families that speak other languages. If they are to call here or show up here, we have interpreters in 5 languages here on a daily basis. Now, sometimes they are called out to a building to do an IEP meeting or conferences if there is not an available interpreter in the building. But the 5 languages that we translate in and that we have on staff every day are Bosnian, Spanish, Burmese, Marshallese, and French. And that is strictly due to the sheer numbers of what we have. We do have options for some other translations and translators that are on contract. But because of the amount of students on those other languages, we don't have somebody as a full-time staff member translating on a daily basis. Any of our forms that schools send us that are to go out to families, anything that goes out from the district through mail is all translated in those 5 languages.
I just want to also point out here that while we're going to go through the whole process, there is a quick portal usage guide here. So as the parents get in, if they're having issues, they can click right here. And that pops up a user guide for them to be able to look at. It's just a simple Google document that kind of leads them in the direction that they need to go and gives them this step-by-step process that we're going to take them through right now as well.
And all of our online registration is done in those languages. They can select a drop down when they first get logged in as to what language they want or what language they need. Know that there are many other languages, but this is the capacity that we have to do at this time.
When the parents log in, they will see this message center screen and they may just see it where it's kind of pushed off to the left. And so if they click on that hamburger or the 3 lines on the left-hand side and come down to the more, they will see the online registration. So if they click on that, they should get this screen right here that says the 2023 existing student registration or whichever year we're in. And it would typically just say not started if they have not started an application, and then they could just click on start, which will start the application process. In this case, you can see that my name is Minnie Mouse, and I am registering Donald Duck. I also could possibly register Daisy Duck, except I'm not her primary household. And I also have living with me Yellow Duck, but Yellow Duck, I do not have guardian rights to. So in this case, what is happening is Minnie Mouse is the primary guardian to Donald. She's also a guardian to Daisy. However, she's not the primary household. So Mickey maybe is the primary household or somebody else. And then in this case, Yellow Duck, she's maybe the stepmom to Yellow Duck. So what is going to happen is the parents will want to review here and ensure this is correct before they start. That way they get all the students that they're supposed to be registering for. If they start and this is not correct, then it will make it a little bit more difficult for them in the process. Julia, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so a parent can only, educational law can only enroll their legal child. So whoever is listed as the legal caretaker is the one that gets to enroll. So if I'm a step parent, I technically in educational rights do not have legal rights to do an enrollment. It would have to be, if I'm stepmom, only dad would have rights to do that child. So that one that says, you know, no guardian rights for Yellow Duck, I'm stepmom, so I can't enroll that child. But Donald is my child. I just happen to live with my husband, who also has Yellow Duck in our household, and he would have to do the enrollment for that child. I can be a grandparent, but that doesn't mean that I necessarily have educational rights. It would have to be that you are the legal caretaker through the court system, through DHS. If you're receiving any DHS benefits like food stamps or Medicaid, that makes you the legal caretaker. If your family, if you're a child that has come from the Marshall Islands and your parents still live in the Marshall Islands and you're here with an aunt, then that person is considered your caretaker at the time, because they may not have gone through the court system to give legal guardianship to that family, but they are not here in Waterloo present to be the legal guardian.
So important that they get this correct before they start. That way the process will go very smoothly for them. If they don't have this correct before they start, or if it does not look correct, they need to call their school or call student services. Julia, do you want to give that number?
Yeah, any parent is welcome to call student services at any time when they're working on this. I technically make sure that I don't take vacation days during our opening for annual updates. So our number is to the building is 319-433-1800. So if someone were to call and need an interpreter, as long as they can say, you know, Spanish or Espanol, then we transfer them to who they need. If we can get that much information from them, we can get somebody on the phone for them. I can try to get a phone number from them and have someone call them back.
Great. Okay, I'll start the process then. If I'll do the clicking if you want to do the talking. Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
This is where they would select their language. So this is the very first screen they'll see when they get into the start process. So obviously we're going to do in English, but they can select any one of those 5 languages. And we have people on staff now in the summer. Not everyone is on staff. They're not contracted during the summer, but we do have numbers to call people if we do have people call in and need help. So the parent is just going to sign in as to who should be doing this application. A lot of times we have students helping their families. So this way, you know, I've talked to a couple students that are in high school that are helping their moms or dads work on this. So we can do that all over the phone as well. I can log in as them if they give me their password, or I can log in just based on their name, those kinds of things. I can log in and help them walk through it at the same time. Each section will give an explanation. And again, this is in their language of those 5 languages selected. This system was not capable of doing Burmese because of the specialized keyboard. So that's a system problem with Infinite Campus. It could not handle that capacity. And so we do not have this process done in our registration. Everything that should be pre-populated for the family already. So this would be their phone number that they've listed with us. And you just click through onto next. This is the address. If it's not their address, they have a box to check and they can change their address with us and upload that. So it's basically just clicking next in each section after they read, you know, is this your address? Is this your phone number? Do you have internet access? And then everything would give a drop down as to what they can select from.
And the drop downs will also be in their language.
Yes. Anytime we have changes that come out from the state or from the feds on this, we have to go in and make changes on this in all languages so that it follows everybody. The economic survey, it gives a big explanation of what this information is, why we need this information, how many people in your household, and then it gives a drop down of a range of income so that if they were to go out for driver's ed with free, if you qualify in the free section, you don't have to pay for driver's ed. So this lets us go back and find out which category they qualified in, even though all of our kids get free breakfast and lunch. Again, it's just clicking through the process. So here, anything in yellow needs to be touched as an edit to make sure that everything is correct. So this would be about Mickey. And does Mickey still live in this household? If not, they can check. Here's a phone number for Mickey and an email address. If they have no email, there is a box for them to check, which many of our families don't. Then we do know that, and we are able to have them check that box. This actual process can be done from a laptop, a Chromebook, a tablet, their phone. It is a little bit harder to see from a phone just because you have to make sure that you've scrolled over all the way, but it is possible to be done from all those avenues. And here we're just verifying another person that was in yellow and whether or not there was a change in phone number. And then any guidelines that we have based on what the federal government needs from us or what the state needs from us for education. And anytime we're done, we're going to hit save. And also, if you want to go back real quick, Sue, well, even on this one, it says it, I'm sorry. So down at the bottom, it says yellow, yellow things have to be touched. That's been kind of a common mistake that parents are like, it won't let me go on. It won't let me finish. It won't let me submit it. Well, there was something in yellow that they did not go in and fix or approve, or these are all emergency contacts under this area. Are you keeping those same emergency contacts? Some parents will say, oh no, this person has moved to Texas, so I need to take grandma out because grandma would no longer be an emergency contact. So there's a way for them to fix everybody in this section. So this family had 4 contacts for emergencies if we could not reach Donald or Mickey or Minnie, and then a way to change their phone number or continue to say, if they no longer need to be contacted, then we're going to take them out. But if we didn't touch all 4 of those that were highlighted, then we could not move on to the next step. It would not let us submit at the end.
And I just want to note that as you go across this application, when the different pieces are done, they will turn green. And it does make you do all of the household information, the parent information, and then the emergency contact information first before you get to the student. And that's why it's so important for on that very first screen when we started to make sure that you've got all your students who are supposed to be registering, because now we're in step number 1, 2, 3. This is the 4th step. And now we're just getting to Donald Duck. And if we realize now that we don't have all our students, we've just processed through 4 or 3 steps, we're onto the 4th step and we don't have all the students. So we don't want parents to get frustrated, which is why we want to make sure at the beginning that they've checked that that information to make sure they have all the kids.
Yep, and then this is all the information that we need for either federal guidelines or state guidelines on every student. And it's all pre-populated. That's why it's in gray. There's no changes they can make. So if you told us at the beginning when you enrolled that your child was Hispanic and white, and you want to change that now, that all has to go through a huge system because we've now told the state that we have this white Hispanic student and now we're changing them. So there are guidelines to fix that if it is a mistake, but if it's not a mistake, a parent can't just change that automatically. They can enter their information for their doctor, for their dentist. It's not required, but they are able to list that information if they want us to know that. Anything that is required will have a little red asterisk by it. So here is the attendance policy, and they do have to sign that yearly, which is why it's here. And you can't move on without clicking the I have read and understand that, where the red asterisk is. If they need to add a medical condition, this is where it is. As of right now, this child doesn't have anything, but we could add that they have diabetes now. We just found that out over the summer. And any comments we want to put in. And then the next one would be as if there's any medications that they now need to have added, and we'll talk this, then this goes directly to the school nurses.
I have no idea how to spell insulin. So I'm going to put no medications because I don't know how to do that. And that's it for this student. So.
And then here we just have that we've got the checkbox under the completed category. No, there's nothing in yellow. We can go ahead and hit save and submit.
And this is really important. A lot of times people think that because this turns blue that they're done, but they actually have to click on this red button that says submit. You must submit your application by clicking the button below. It says that because people don't do it. So we just need people to click on the submit button. And when they do that, then it actually goes through and it sends them an email. Are you sure that you're ready to submit? Now, if I wasn't ready, I could go back and check some things like we clicked through quickly. So, you know, if I'm like, oh, I'm not sure, you know, did I get everything right? We can go back. But once we're to the point of submitting, then we can't fix anything. We'd have to call the school. So I'm going to go ahead and click submit if that's okay with you, Julia. To complete. Yep. Unless somebody has any questions about any, maybe we should wait and ask if anybody has any questions about any of these pieces that we've gone through before we click the submit button.
Any questions?
See, is there anything in the chat? Oh, thank you for the number in the chat. I'm just seeing that now. Okay. Then I'll go ahead and click submit.
And once submit is hit, then if they have an email address on file, they will get an auto email that says you have submitted this application. And it'll give the application number, I believe, and the date and time that they submitted it. So if they were to have an issue, call us and say, hey, I submitted application number 19764 and I forgot to add an emergency contact. And then we can go in and do that by hand. The school could do that. We can do any of those changes at a later date. And again, this is just the process for existing families. So anybody that is currently in preschool through 11th grade will do this summer. It opens July. We haven't set a date yet, but usually it's the week after the week of the 4th of July. And then for new families, so if we have a new family that has just arrived in the country, you can either come to the administration building on Washington Street, or you can call us and we would have an interpreter call. All of our interpreters know how to do the online registration for a new family. They can do it over the phone. It does take about half an hour, 45 minutes, depending on how many students it is. And if they come in person, the reason that that we have gone over the phone obviously was COVID, but when someone is coming from out of the country, they do have to provide us with immunization records and proof of birth. Where someone coming from another school district in the United States, we get those records from that other school district. So they don't have to bring us that information. And we can't start a student without immunization record and proof of birth. Does that make sense?
Well, it makes sense to me.
So there's a note in the
Yes.
chat about preschool registration.
Yes. So preschool enrollment is actually done through Tri-County Start. Even though it's in our buildings, they are our partner and they do all of the registration and send us the information for us to put in our system. Because then that's how we take attendance every day for children. That's how our teachers view them. But because Head Start is the overall, you know, they're the part of the umbrella where it starts at, that is where any preschool child family would do an enrollment. Their enrollment did open February 1st at noon. That is just the opening. For preschool, it is a little different. It is not always based on boundary because we don't have preschool in all of our 9 or 10 elementary buildings.
11.
11.
Yes.
Okay. So we don't have preschool in all of our buildings. So they also through Head Start have other locations, Maywood, EMA, Lily Ferguson, other locations that are not affiliated with the Waterloo schools. So that's why registration for preschool is done through Head Start, because then they can disseminate and help people get to other partners if they need to, if they can't get into the school site that they want to get into. We also only have specific numbers that we can allow based on how many classes we have. So that did start at noon on the 1st. It is strictly online. I don't know if they have their information in other languages. I have not enrolled a preschooler this year, but Head Start does have interpreters available. If someone needed to call for help, then they get a phone number and have an interpreter call them. You can enroll for preschool at any point in time, as long as your child is 4 years old on or before September 15th. So even though they may have forgotten to start doing the enrollment on February 1st, they do it March 1st, but want a specific building like Irving, there's only 13 spots. I live in the Irving boundary and 13 people ahead of me have already gotten those spots. They're going to go with a second choice, and preschool does not, we do not provide transportation. So a lot of times it's hard for families to have their child in preschool because they can't do the transportation piece, but because it's not mandatory, we do not transport. So they would then either have to do a private daycare or some other location for preschool.
And Head Start is income-based, but not all of the preschools are income-based. So it starts there and they will ask some of those same questions that we ask, but it does not require you to be low income to get into the program. If you are of a higher income, you still can get into the voluntary preschool program, which is free. And it's just funded in a different way through the state. So everyone is able to go to preschool. It's just that they start the process. So I don't want people to get discouraged that, oh, well, I wouldn't qualify for Head Start, or or those types of things. Everyone should apply through that site. And that's just the jumping piece. And then they kind of classify everybody into the different places.
Mm-hmm. And then they have so many like Head Start classrooms and so many voluntary classrooms. So Orange may have 2 classrooms that can take anybody, but once those fill up, then anyone that may have qualified based on, not on income would have to go to another location where there's an opening. So it is still based on first come, first serve kind of thing. So I know they used to have a line of people waiting outside their door when they would open registration at 6 in the morning, and people would be standing in line at 2 a.m. We've experienced that because the one year they moved it to our location to have a bigger area for people to stand because it's wintertime in February. And then with COVID, then they strictly went online and they only do online, just like we have gone online with our system too. Kindergarten registration will start March 31st. I don't like to send out information about kindergarten until after we get preschool up and going, because a lot of families get confused. Are you talking about preschool? Are you talking about kindergarten? So my kindergartner can now enroll? No, not until March 31st. So I wait to send out media and news information until we get a little bit closer and a little bit further away from the start of preschool enrollment. It'll be the same way. It's on our website. There'll be a link at the top of the screen that will say kindergarten registration, click here, and it will have the families enter their information. Because it's a kindergartner, they wouldn't already be in our system. So they would have to then hand enter their child's full name, date of birth, those kinds of things. So it does take a little bit longer to do that versus an existing child that everything's already pre-populated for you.
That being said, if a student does happen to be in a preschool program with us, I think we are going to be allowing them to do that the easier route, right, Julia, this year?
Yes. Yes.
And then also if for some reason, let's just say that a family has a 5th or 6th grader or a 1st or 2nd grader, and they have a student who's just now joining the district, we will allow them to do the online registration process this year through the same place that we just showed you. And instead of it saying begin registration, it will actually say add a new student. And so that will allow them to go ahead and add their student in and basically say that they want to add a brand new kid, and then they won't have to go through all of the address entry. They won't have to enter Mickey's name and Minnie's name and all of that. They will just have to do a little bit less steps. So we're trying to make that process a little smoother as well.
Yeah, we have a very mobile population, as everybody knows. So maybe Sue Smith goes to spend summers and 1 year with dad in Arizona and then comes back. So then mom would have, maybe she has other children that did not go or have a different father. So then that way she can just go back in and add that student herself. She wouldn't have to call us, spend 20 minutes over the phone. She would be able to add that student at that time because now they've come back this summer to live with her for the next year. Any questions on those pieces?
Julie Militia, do you have any questions?
Not really. I think she was clear.
Okay. Awesome. Is Adriana in there with you as well?
But she's busy.
Oh, okay. All right.
We do have an EL coordinator for our district. So if there are specific questions that maybe don't have to do with registration, we can definitely connect. I will give you, if you call the 319-433-1800 and ask for the ELL coordinator, that would be Simona. Dr. Simona, and her last name is B as in boy, O-R-O-I-A-N-U. And I can put that in the chat if you didn't catch that, Tracy. So she would be the contact for the district. We have been trying to hire more interpreters. I do see that we've had a Burmese Korean interpreter posted since September that we have not been able to fill. So if you know people that want positions with the district, we have been trying to find people to fill positions on a regular basis. So we do have interpreters in our buildings based on need. Very good, thank you. Based on need and based on numbers in the buildings, those kinds of things. So we do look at that population and look at how we staff that accordingly. Highland is our elementary is our biggest population for our Hispanic families. So we have 2 full-time interpreters that are housed at Highland every day, where another building doesn't have any, like Pointer doesn't have any Spanish interpreters because they have 2 students that are of Spanish speaking. So that is something that comes out of her office with that department. Anytime I enter a new family that has come from out of the country or somewhere that does not speak English, they get an automated email that says we need to either test the student to see if they qualify for English language services, or we look at the records coming from another district to see if they are currently doing English language services and programming that we can provide in our buildings.
I just think that maybe one other thing to note is that if someone were to call the help desk, there are 4 or 5 people down here that do answer the help desk. And none of us speak any other languages than English. I tried to learn Spanish through Duolingo and I still couldn't help anyone with the login process if I had to. So what we do is if we get someone who calls who, like Julia said, is asking for a different language, we do usually transfer them back to the district office because we can't help with that here directly. But if a person were to directly call the main office and ask for the interpreter, then they call us, they get the password reset for the family, and then they just give that password back to the family. So just so you guys are kind of aware of that process, because our interpreters do handle the password resets then from that side if the passwords need to be reset or if they need login accounts. So that's how we try to mitigate that problem, with us obviously not having all of the languages here at the help desk to be able to help with that. And that portal is great, not just for registration, by the way. I mean, like, I think Julia spoke to that, but you can see every time your student's absent, you can see all the grades. There's lots of information in there for families. So, and the portal itself is translated into many more languages than just English, Spanish, those types of things. So I would definitely recommend families to kind of get into that process so that they can be advocates for their own kids that way as well.
So something I was curious about, so it sounds like you have a tough time getting emails from families. They might just not even have an email in general. But I was curious, do you feel like perhaps it's getting lost in translation as to why you're needing the email? Like maybe they're like confused as to like you potentially like spamming them or something. Like, do they understand when you ask for the email, it's for a login purpose to get like notified about the, oh gosh, what was it called? The Infinite Campus account thing? Like, does that make sense? Do you think that could be the confusion?
Definitely. Yeah, I know that when new families come in and don't have an email, our interpreters have set an email up for them because they're able to explain that. But if they're not sitting in front of them explaining that, I could see that being a disconnect. Yes.
Yeah. People in general are very particular about their emails as is. So I think if it was just, but it sounds like the interpreter's already there trying to make that more clear. So, but that was just a thought that I had.
Nope, that makes sense. And then like a text message will come out that will say, please check your email. So for more guidance or more guidelines. So hopefully, and those are sent in a couple languages. So hopefully they're seeing that thinking, okay, that would be why I would need my email address on file, because I want to know what they're talking about with more information. I know that schools email, like I got an email from the school about conferences, because conferences are the end of this month. Automated emails that they're sending out school specific wide too, like, hey, all Hoover families, we have conferences coming out at the end of February. Here's the sign up sheet. You can sign up for that. Here's when they are. Here's when your kid doesn't have school because of it. So there are lots of different pieces that come out through email.
Right. It's almost like it would be cool to have like I don't know how far in advance you do this, but like a night for like email setup, like for people who might not be tech savvy or something. Well, that kind of brings me to my next point. I had sent this in the email, but like Julie, our community health worker here, was thinking that like some type of a parent network would be helpful. I don't know how we could go about doing that, but perhaps that could be some type of a partnership between the schools and the health department where we kind of put our heads together and figure something out. But having like a parent network within the school of a select number of community leaders from the respective populations who could like help, like be almost like a peer-to-peer support for parents to kind of walk them through this process and to kind of make it a bit easier, something like that.
And you'll see like in our schools like Highland, I'll use Highland as an example, because they have 2 full-time Spanish speaking interpreters, the parents call them for everything. So to me, the interpreter is that contact, like they're calling saying, hey, my kid's not turning homework in, what is the process for, what do I do when my kid's out sick with COVID? Who should I call?
Right.
So building that kind of stuff on a daily basis. And then if the interpreters have questions about a process, they call me and say, hey, this parent just called, they don't have a bus. Is there any way we can get them a bus? I need to, and the interpreter, well, we train them on a yearly basis as to, we know that you're basically like a social worker for the families that don't speak English. First contact, you're the person they trust, you're the one that they want to go to. So, they may come to you and want to know, where can we go? Because I think my child is pregnant. Like through a gamut of training with our interpreters of different people to contact for these kinds of things and who to talk to if they're needing, a bus, and who to talk to if they're needing immunizations, and who to talk to if they're needing help with, someone bullying. All of those different pieces that are happening in the schools are done on a training basis on those professional development days with our interpreters as a whole.
That's awesome. How does that, so that's, I think you had mentioned that was for the Hispanic population. What about like for the Congolese population? Is there multiple interpreters for them?
There is, yeah. So like most of the Congolese population are living in like the Lincoln Elementary boundary and the Lou Henry Elementary boundary. So we have full-time interpreters at those buildings.
Fantastic.
Interpreter here at the district, he speaks Swahili and Lingala. Actually, we just enrolled a Swahili family yesterday. So we have interpreters that he speaks 7 different languages. Okay. So we have them available on a daily basis, but if we don't know, or they aren't calling for the assistance, so concerned when I saw that the Swahili and Lingala, because that happens on a daily basis, that David is here to assist families. He's one of our district interpreters, which we call are the ones that are here at the district office.
Sure. Yeah. And it could just be like, maybe the community it's just, they don't know. So this will be a nice opportunity to get the word out. Like, hey, we do have Lingala and Swahili speaking individuals here available to you. So that's kind of what this is for, actually, is just to get the word out about that. So that's awesome. That's good to know for sure.
And just so you are aware too, during the summer, they are on limited work hours. So when we do open up the registration process, it technically opens on let's just say July 1st. That's not when it's going to open. It might be the 7th. I don't know. But they don't necessarily come back onto contract until a little bit into August. And so parents can wait until August, the beginning of August, to, get those district interpreters or the school interpreters, or they do have certain amounts of days that they work. So if Julia gets a call from a Congolese family on July 15th and she needs to have them registered or they need help, then she just sends them a text message and they call that person. So while we are on, summer hours, or they're on summer hours, summer contract, they do still work. They are still contracted on some hours where they just keep track of their time. So they're available.
Awesome.
This is what I'm trying to say.
Very cool. Yeah, it sounds like the interpreters at the schools are a lot like what our community health workers do here at the health department. Like it's a lot of this trying to meet the needs of the population and just be there for support and stuff. So yeah, we definitely have that here as well. So if you do happen to have any families that are like dealing with some intense like crisis things or any of that nature, you can definitely contact our community health workers here for that as well.
Perfect. And I will just give some examples that our interpreters go above and beyond. We had a family come in yesterday from St. Ed's that spoke Spanish and didn't know where to go about busing. I don't know if Durham told them to come here, or if St. Ed's. We don't know how they ended up here because we don't set up St. Ed's routes. That's all done through St. Ed's, but we tracked down an interpreter. The interpreter wasn't in the building. We have a human resources staff member that speaks Spanish. We went and got her out of a meeting because the family was here. We may not be able to help families immediately when we're here, but if we can get a phone number from them, we will make sure that the information gets to them and the interpreters call back.
Right. That's awesome. Oh, that's actually another question. Do you, like, in the event an interpreter is like out of the office, is there like a language line that you would utilize within the office, like Language Link or something of that nature?
We do use the language line. I don't really like the language line, right. Because it is someone that does not know educational terms, which is another thing. Sometimes a family member will come in and try to translate for them. But if I have an interpreter available, I want my interpreter to translate because they know the terms. Like they can talk about the dress code on a lengthy basis without me having to say every word back and forth and have it go back and forth. They can talk about lunches. They can talk about school times, all of those things that they know are happening in our district, where when we go through the language line, it can take an hour or two sometimes just to do a simple 5-minute conversation that could with the interpreter if we could have just waited for 2 hours for them to get off or something.
Right. And I think it's nice to have the in-person connection is helpful.
sometimes what we'll do down here at the help desk is if a lot of times like a high school student will call trying to help their parents to just get the online process taken care of. And we do have to talk to the parents to get we just can't give the parents' username to their child. So usually what we do is we explain to the students to, and translate to their parents what we're going to do. And then the parents get on the line and we ask them, and the student translates for the parents, and the parents say yes in their language, and we take that for what it is, and we give them their username and password. So even if a student's translating for the parent to help them get the registration process done, we will do it that way for them.
Awesome. Very cool. You guys are doing a lot of stuff, and I know there's a lot of students in this district, so bless you all. This is good stuff.
Yes. And
All right.
we have also had families that belong to other districts but live in Blackhawk County, and they don't have someone to interpret at their main office. So we then call for them because, they're here, they didn't know where else to go. So maybe if another relative or someone in the community said, hey, yeah, you need to go to Waterloo schools on Washington Street. So we had someone the other day that actually lived in the Cedar Falls boundary. And so then while they're here, I've got my interpreter with them, have them waiting. I call Cedar Falls. I'm like, hey, do you guys even, do you have someone that can help them? Where do they go? And they're like, well, we're going to have to get our Spanish teacher to call them because we have nobody available to help. So there's other, other buildings or other districts don't have as many students as us. So they may not have the means to help in those ways. But if there's ways that we can help, we definitely do. We may send an interpreter to go help with an IEP meeting at Columbus because they don't have an interpreter available. So there are many things that our interpreters do on top of their role here with us to try to help the families.
That's awesome. It's nice that you can bridge that gap across districts and stuff, and to just be there to help families in general. That's really cool. Okay. Any other questions or comments? I think we have our friends on from Monsoon. That's the it's Monsoon Asian and Pacific Islanders. They're based out of Iowa City, but they do services up here as well. Danya, do you have anything to add? I like calling on people. It's my thing. And or Ayoko. Ayuko. Monsoon friends. Maybe not. Okay. Julie Malisho, do you have anything else to add today? Or did we cover most of it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Very
Yeah.
cool. And Crystal, did you have any other questions?
Nope, I was just asking about how the preschool went because I did not know that it had changed. So that was really good information to know. So thank you guys.
Yeah, it's very helpful stuff. It is. And that's the other thing too. I feel like we're going to have to do something like this each year because I'm sure by next year, there's going to be some different little thing that we're going to have to do. And it's just nice to stay updated for sure.
Definitely. I was just about to say that if you need to do this on an annual basis, we can definitely do that.
Yeah.
So
I think it'll be
we're-
helpful.
Yes, we're welcome to do, open to doing that. Sue and I are 12-month employees, so we know when the busy times are and when the not as busy times are. So that's when we're kind of away and doing family things, but we're pretty much available as much as possible.
Awesome. Yes, that's awesome. It's very important. Obviously, education is very important. And I think it's just one of those things where we need to work together as a community to, help these families because it's like they've already been through so much. They're going and it's just, I think about how me as a full-time mom and then a full-time worker and stuff, but I speak English, and then my life is just crazy as this. I'm could I if I wasn't from here and if I didn't speak the language, holy buckets, that would be super intense. So I'm all for helping out all of these families. So thank you so much for your time today. This has been very, very helpful. It's been very insightful too. And I'm happy to hear that, there's a lot of work being done behind the scenes with the interpreters and then the amount of work that they're doing. That's incredible. We definitely need more interpreters. So if anyone's listening to this in the future that is interested, please contact the Waterloo Community School District. Sounds like you're still looking for the Burmese position to be filled. And that would be super helpful because we definitely have a large Burmese population here as well. So yeah, if there's nothing else, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording at this time.
If you want to put my email, I think everybody has my email from the message that you sent out, but if
Yes.
there's future questions, you can definitely reach out to me.
Yes.
Get an answer either from Dr. Simona or from someone else. If I can't answer it, I'm kind of a go-to for anything, even though I may not deal with it. I can get an answer and get a response back, hopefully in a timely fashion.
Awesome. There you go. There it is in the chat
Thank
for
you.
everyone. Awesome. So I'm going to stop recording.